Greetings to all the students. Welcome to biology and chemistry lessons. Our today's biology class is about the blood circulation. In the previous lesson, in the previous session, we have seen the structure of heart. And let's have a little bit review from the previous class that our heart is strong muscular organ. It is made up of cardiac muscles. And our right side is the left part of the heart. And our left side is the right part of the heart, and in between, right in the middle of the heart, there is a wall, a muscular wall, which is called septum. And for this septum, the heart is divided into left and the right part. The upper two chambers are called atria, so right atria and left atria, and the lower two are called ventricles, so right ventricle and left ventricle. And the right part of the heart contains deoxygenated blood, and the left part of the heart contains oxygenated blood. So this right part of the heart is full of blood with high concentration of carbon dioxide, whereas the left part of the heart is full of blood with high concentration of oxygen. And these two different type of the bloods flow side by side and they never mix up with each other, because there is a septum in the middle. And this type of the blood circulatory system is called a double circulatory system. We will see today what is a double circulatory system. And our today's topic is how the blood is circulating, how the heart is pumping the blood. We have seen that these are the valves in between atria and ventricle. So in between right atria and right ventricle, there is a tricuspid valve. What is the meaning of tricuspid valve? It has got three flaps. It has got three flaps, like there are three doors. And this is the bicuspid valve in between left atria and left ventricle. This is the bicuspid valve. It means it has two flaps, two doors. So this is also a purpose. There is a purpose behind this thing. Why there are three flaps in the tricuspid valve on the right side, and why there are two flaps, double flaps in the bicuspid valve in the left side of the heart. Another thing is that the right side of the heart has thin muscles and the left side of the heart has thick muscles. And there is also a reason behind it. Now, one by one, we will see these things, how the blood circulation is taking place, and then we will read the notes. So now let's see the process of blood circulation. Let me move to the last slide. Yes. So you will see here how the process of blood circulation is taking place. Now, you can see that this is the right side of the heart, right atrium and right ventricle, left atrium and left ventricle. And you can see the blue color is actually the deoxygenated blood and the red color is actually the oxygenated blood. Now, the two atria, first of all, they will contract. So when the two atria will become contract, their size will become smaller and the ventricles remain relaxed. So their size will remain bigger. So when these two atria will contract, due to the pressure of the blood, the tricuspid valve will open, and over here the bicuspid valve will open. And this side, the deoxygenated blood comes to the right ventricle and the oxygenated blood comes to the left ventricle. As soon as the blood is filled up in the ventricles, due to the pressure of the blood, the valves again close. So now the blood cannot return back in the atria. So now both of the ventricles contract. So when the two ventricles will contract, before that the atrium will relax. And now this is the turn that the ventricles will contract. So when the ventricles will contract, the ventricle will become smaller in size and the atria are becoming bigger in size. So when the ventricles are contracting, actually they are squeezing, they are pushing the blood out of them. So where the blood will go out of them? When the two ventricles will contract from the right ventricle. Right ventricle is full of deoxygenated blood. The right ventricle, when it will contract, the blood will go to our lungs. Why the blood will go to the lungs? To both of the lungs. Why the blood is going to the lungs? Because this blood is full of carbon dioxide and it has to get rid of carbon dioxide and gain oxygen. So when this deoxygenated blood will go to the lungs, it will give the carbon dioxide to the lungs which we exhale. And from the lungs, it will pick up oxygen which we have inhaled. Now, this oxygenated blood from the lungs is coming back to the left atria. The right ventricle contracts. The deoxygenated blood from the right ventricle goes to two lungs. Gaseous exchange takes place, carbon dioxide is given, and oxygen is taken up by the blood. Now, this good blood or the blood full of oxygen is coming to the left atria. Now, we have understood why the left atrium contains oxygenated blood, because this blood is coming from the lungs. Now, when the left atria contracts, this oxygenated blood goes to the entire body. So it is going downward, it is going upward. So when the blood is going upward, it is going to our jaws, our neck, our cheeks, our eyes, our head, our shoulders, and downward when it will go to our liver, our intestine, our kidneys, our lower abdominal region, reproductive organs. So this good blood, oxygenated blood, is going to the entire body. Now, there are valves, two more valves, which we will see in our heart. The first two valves which we have seen, what these valves were, bicuspid and tricuspid. So here in the right part of the heart, right atrium and right ventricle, there is a bicuspid valve. And in between the right atrium and right ventricle, this is the tricuspid valve. Apart from these two valves, when the right atrium, when the right ventricle is contracting, when the deoxygenated blood is going to the lungs, over here there is a pulmonary valve. Pulmonary valve. So this is the pulmonary valve which will let the blood go to the lungs and should not return back. When the left ventricle contracts, the oxygenated blood goes to the entire body. So this main blood vessel which is taking the blood, oxygenated blood to the whole body, is called aorta. So this is aorta. So over here there is an aortic valve. So aortic valve will let the blood go to the aorta without returning back. Now, the blood vessel which is taking the good blood, oxygenated blood to the whole body is the aorta. And this aorta, when it will go to the different parts of the body, so suppose this is aorta, the main blood vessel. So when it will go to the liver, we call it hepatic artery. It is taking good blood to the oxygen blood to the liver. When it will go to the intestine, we call it mesenteric artery. When it will go to the kidneys, we call it renal artery. Then the lower abdominal region, sciatic artery in our back, and iliolumbar arteries. So these are the arteries which are going to our back and our legs. So what will happen when these all branches of aorta are taking oxygenated blood to different parts of our body? They will give oxygen. The blood will give oxygen to these parts, to different parts, and pick up carbon dioxide. So you can see over here, this good blood is going to the whole part of the body. Oxygen is giving to all the parts of the body and carbon dioxide is picked up. Now, this deoxygenated blood, after picking carbon dioxide and giving oxygen, is returning back to the heart. Which part of the heart? The right part of the heart. So this blood vessel which is bringing the deoxygenated blood to the right atrium is called vena cava. So this is vena cava. So there are two vena cava. One is coming from your neck, your head, your face. So superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. Superior vena cava is bringing the deoxygenated blood from your neck, from your jaws, from your face, from your head. And the inferior vena cava is bringing the blood from all the rest of the parts of the body from bottom to top. Now, the blood vessel which is taking the blood to the lungs, the right atrium, the right ventricle, when it contracts, the deoxygenated blood is pumped to the lungs. So anything which is associated with the lungs, the word pulmonary is given to it. So the blood vessel which is taking the deoxygenated blood to the lungs, this blue one, from the right ventricle to the lungs, this blood vessel is called pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery. And the one which is bringing the oxygenated blood from lungs to the left atrium is called pulmonary vein. So what different type of the blood vessels we have seen? Pulmonary artery, pulmonary vein. This one which is taking the oxygenated blood to the whole body is aorta, and the one which is bringing the deoxygenated blood back to the heart is vena cava. So these are the four major blood vessels. Now see, we have discussed earlier that the right atrium and right ventricle, in between them there is a tricuspid valve, and the right part of the heart have thin muscles, comparatively thin muscles. The reason behind it is the right part of the heart is serving only to the lungs, and lungs are very delicate. So the blood has to be sent to the lungs with a gentle pressure. So how the blood pressure is decreased? The blood pressure is decreased because this tricuspid valve means it has got three valves, three flaps. So one by one, when these three flaps will open, they will offer more resistance to the flow of the blood. Blood has to wait for some time. Suppose blood is not waiting, but let's say when one door will open, the blood will come down. Then the other door will open, the blood will come down. Then the third door will open, the blood will come down. In this way, the blood pressure decreases. And the right side of the heart has thin muscles. So thin muscles means the blood pressure high blood pressure cannot be generated. So this is how the right part of the heart is sending the blood at a comparatively low pressure to the lungs. In what two ways? Number one, there is a tricuspid valve in between the right atrium and right ventricle, which offers more resistance to the flow of the blood, and the right part of the heart has thin muscles. So they generate less blood pressure. Similarly, you can see that the left part of the heart has thick muscles and it has bicuspid valve. What does it mean? It means that when the blood flows out, when the blood forces out of the left ventricle into the aorta, the blood pressure is high. Why? Because the aorta takes the blood to the entire body, head to toe, in no time. So a very high blood pressure is need to be generated. So a high blood pressure is generated by the left side of the heart, because the left side of the heart has thick muscles, and the bicuspid valve in between the left atrium and left ventricle offers less resistance to the flow of the blood. This is the reason that in the aorta, the blood is flowing at a very high pressure. And in the pulmonary artery, the blood is coming at a very low pressure. The blood is going at a very high pressure through aorta to the entire body, and the blood is going to the lungs via pulmonary artery at a low pressure so that the lungs can remain protected. So now let's see quickly once again the process of the blood circulation. So what is the process of the blood circulation? The left side of the heart contains the right side of the heart contains deoxygenated blood, and the left side of the heart contains oxygenated blood. So the deoxygenated blood needs oxygen. So where this blood will go? to that organ of the body which is full of oxygen, and they are our lungs. So the right atrium contracts, the tricuspid valve open, the blood comes down in the right ventricle. The tricuspid valve closes. The right ventricle contracts, the pulmonary valve opens, the blood flows via pulmonary artery to our lungs. The pulmonary valve closes so that the blood may not flow back. In the lungs, gaseous exchange takes place. Carbon dioxide is given to the lungs, which we exhale out, and oxygen is picked up. Now, via pulmonary arc vein, this oxygenated blood is coming to the left atrium. The left atrium contracts, the bicuspid valve opens, the blood flows down to the left ventricle. The bicuspid valve closes again so that the blood may not return back. Then the left ventricle contracts and the aortic valve opens and the blood goes to the aorta at a very high pressure. Why? Because the bicuspid valve offers less resistance to the flow of the blood, and the left side of the heart has thick muscles. So they generate high pressure. So with high pressure, the blood is coming to the aorta and going to the entire body, the upper region and the lower region. So in the entire body, to every organ, to every tissue, this oxygenated blood is going, giving oxygen, unloading oxygen and picking up carbon dioxide. So the deoxygenated blood is returning back from the entire body to the left to the right atrium via vena cava, through vena cava. So I told you that there are two vena cava, the one which is coming from the upper region and the one which is coming from the lower region. So the superior vena cava and inferior vena cava is bringing the deoxygenated blood to the right atrium. Again, the right atrium will contract. The blood comes into the right ventricle. Again, the right ventricle contract. The blood goes to the lungs. Gaseous exchange takes place. Oxygenated blood comes to the left atrium. Left atrium contracts. Blood comes to the left ventricle contracts, and the blood goes via aorta to the whole body. In the whole body, oxygen is given, carbon dioxide is picked up, and again the deoxygenated blood is coming back to the heart, and this cycle keeps on going. And in 1 minute, an average person's heartbeat beats 72 times in 1 minute. So it means 72 times this cycle is going on in 1 minute. That's all for today. In our next class, we will see what are the different type of the blood vessels. So that's all for today. I hope you have understood and enjoyed the class. Bye-bye.